short as you want. It can be as tall as you want, although higher than about 4 feet it really becomes hard for people to use unless you've got arthritis in the spine and you can't bend at all. You can only reach.
Becky, this is the kind of getting for a large garden area. They're 13 inches tall, 4 by 8s.
4 by 8s are great. I've got 10 by 4s at home.
So what I figured is all the wheelchairs, the walkway will be 4.5 feet.
That's right where I was going. Accessibility. My beds at home are 3 feet apart because I can kneel and my toes will just touch the bed. That would not work for a wheelchair. It might work for somebody in a walker. Minimum distance for someone in a wheelchair to be able to turn around is 4 feet. 5 feet is preferable, but 4.5 feet is okay. You need to be able to do a 360 in your wheelchair. When we did accessible beds down at the demonstration garden for the master gardeners, they're 5 feet apart. Okay. If you have some do not use treated lumber to build raised beds. It's got arsenic in the chemical. That's one of the chemicals you use to treat it. If you use concrete, concrete has got lime in it. Lime raises the pH and it's going to make it harder for you to grow something because vegetables like slightly acidic pH. You can put pelletized sulfur in to keep the soil treated and so keep the pH down.
With those?
Those are concrete, yeah.
Yeah, so what should...
Well, you need to grow in them and see, but concrete has lime in it. And I grow blueberries at home, but I have them in containers, and I have pelletized sulfur. You can get elemental sulfur, sulfur powder, and sprinkle it over the top and dig it in. That works very, very well. Okay. I bring this up just so you can see it because it's a fun way of gardening, and it's square foot gardening. And the whole premise of square foot gardening is that you grow things up. You take your space, you divide it in 1 foot square things, and you plant in each square what will grow. If you're going to grow a Copenhagen market cabbage, they get to be that big around. You would plant 1 in your square. If you're growing Romeo, little round carrots, you would scatter your seed all over because you're going to be pulling them as they grow. It's a great little book. I caution you with this book and any book, most gardening books were written for the Northeast or the Midwest. We don't live in the Northeast or the Midwest. We live in the Central Valley of California. That's why this is like gold. Funny story on myself. My husband was in the Marine Corps and we moved 14 times in the first 3 years we were married, going from school to school. I mean, it's like, we retired. I would have loved to have gone back to Indiana except for the snow. My husband didn't want to go back to Indiana. And he really liked the city, and I'm a country girl. So when he finally retired and I retired, I said, I want some dirt to dig in. He had family up here, so we moved up here. Growing up in Indiana, the soil was acidic. What did we do with our wood ashes? We spread it on the soil to raise the pH. First winter we were up here, what do you want to do with the ashes? Oh, just spread it out on my garden. Well, we have alkaline soil, neutral to alkaline soil here. So all I did was raise the pH further. So you need to know a little bit about your soil if you're going to grow something. The master gardeners have run, how am I doing on time? I'm doing okay. The master gardeners have a running test of soils. The first bed is native soil. The second bed is native soil with fertilizer. The next bed is half native soil, half compost. The next bed is half native soil, half compost, but with fertilizer. The fifth bed is all compost. And the sixth bed is compost with fertilizer. The best combination over that bed, that trial's been going 23 years now. The best combo to grow your vegetables in is half compost, half native soil. Adding fertilizer helps a little. One wouldn't think that, but that's what it is. Now, having said that, personal experience in my sandy soil and my homemade compost tells me I need to add a little bit of fertilizer. I use 16/16. I fertilize when I put the new compost in and turn it all in, and that's the last time I fertilize, because that compost is slow release fertilizer.
We have a gardening place down the road, and they make up for us compost, topsoil, and then they throw in a little bit of fertilizer. And then they mix it all together for us, and that's, all of us.
Okay, so
emptied
you've
it
got,
out and put it in,
you've got soil, compost, and a little bit of fertilizer.
Yeah.
Okay? The main reason I put the fertilizer in is because if compost is not finished, if it hasn't completely decomposed, it will take the nitrogen it needs from the soil to finish decomposition, and that nitrogen is not available for the plants to grow. That's the reason I put it in. And it's the last time I fertilize. Okay. What have I forgotten here?
I've got a question
Sure.
about the composition of the soils. A lot of straight compost gets used around here, it seems like. And I've seen it other places when they're doing containers, it's just straight potting soil or something.
Potting soil is not compost.
Well, yeah, but it's composting wood products is what most of it is.
Yeah.
So I've tasted tomatoes that are grown in straight, and they don't taste good to me.
Okay.
So is that a freak thing that happens, or does that happen quite often?
No. Water, improper watering, infrequent watering, too much water, uneven water, that can affect the flavor of tomatoes, okay? And if the medium that it's planted in has not completely finished decomposing, you aren't going to have the nitrogen, and you're going to get some of the chemicals that are still decomposing.
Okay, then that makes sense. And those amendments that we put in, because a lot of bark and wood products that are not completely decomposed.
Yep.
And you might be getting a flavor from that.
Yeah, depending on what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the problem. I have a lot of people ask me, well, how can I get organic compost? Make it yourself. If you go over to the Gallo Winery and get a truckload of compost, all you have to do is go onto the other side of the yard and watch those big truckloads of green waste and brown waste being dumped by the gardeners and by the contractors, and you can see what goes into that compost. So anyway.
If you hear the use for mulch, a lot,
Oh, yeah.
wood chips,
That's fine.
you know,
They'll decompose over time. You just don't want to plant your vegetables in it. It's great for mulch. Mulch holds the soil, holds the moisture, and keeps the soil from heating up.
So
Mulch is a great thing to use.
so
I use it at home, only I use compost to mulch.
You don't necessarily want to turn that in then.
No, you don't want to turn it in. If you're going to use something you're going to want to turn in, use compost. Another funny story. friend, Marcia Rosenberg, fellow master gardener. She's a lazier gardener than I am, and God love her. She had hard pan, and every year she would put more compost on top. Never tried to do anything with that soil. She just put compost on top.
We did.
10 years passed, 15 years passed. All of a sudden she started having weeds growing on that hard pan. So she went over there and started digging. She had nice soil about 2 feet down. Over time, that compost had worked its way down into the hard pan. Where roots couldn't grow before it, now they could. I'm a firm believer in compost. I could talk for 3 hours on compost. I'm a firm believer in compost. Last thing I want to say about raised bed gardening. The root ball of the plant you are planting should determine the minimum height of your bed. Okay? An indeterminate tomato that grows 8 feet tall is going to have a root ball between 30 and 36 inches in diameter. So if you're going to try to put that in a bed that's 2 foot high, it's going to have to go down into native soil. And if you've got hard pan that the roots can't get down into, you're going to stunt that plant.
What was the statistic on that? Your root ball is 1 foot out.
If you've got a 2 foot root ball,
Yeah.
you can't plant it in a 1 foot tall raised bed if you've got hard pan below, because the roots won't go anywhere.
Okay.
They're going to be stunted. Okay?
Okay.
So it's just a matter of, if you're planting these little Romeo carrots, they're about that big around and they've got a taproot about like that. You only need about that much room to grow those. If you're planting a Chantenay carrot, their carrot is 12 inches long and you've got another 3 inches of root below that. So you need at least 15 inches of soil to grow those, or they're going to be growing off to the side or be stunted. So the root ball determines the size bed you need, unless you've got good soil below, in which case the roots will go down and it's not a problem. Okay. The 10 most commonly asked questions about tomatoes. And I got tired of getting these questions time after time after time, so that's why I put this together. I have lots of beautiful leaves, but no fruit.
Too much nitrogen.
Yes, sir. And that's why I only put fertilizer in when I turn my compost in. Lots of plants, if they have too much nitrogen, all they're going to do is grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and you're never going to get any flowers and you're never going to get any fruit.